Hi, my name is Ken Booster, president of Power Start Productions, and my partner Charlie Emmenecker and I will be your host as we interview Dr. Amod Tootla today. Dr. Tootla is board-certified colon cancer surgeon, named as one of the top surgeons in the U.S. by the Consumer Research Council of America in Washington, D.C. He also has the honor of being named by Cambridge University in England as one of the top 2,000 scientists in the world for the 21st century. He is licensed to practice in 20 different countries. Dr. Tootla has the distinction of having introduced robotic surgery into the U.S., as well as having been a pioneer in laparoscopic colon surgery. He has published many papers in some of the most prestigious medical journals in the world, including the New England Journal of Medicine, for his study of comparing open versus laparoscopic surgery for colon surgery. He is one of 60 top surgeons chosen by Mayo Clinic to participate in the study funded by the National Cancer Institute. Dr. Tootla was introduced to an amazing medical discovery in 2005, which has fundamentally changed his practice, and he wishes to share his discovery with others in the medical profession. For thousands of years, people in Thailand and other Pacific Rim countries have ground up a fruit heretofore unavailable, so not known in the U.S., called mangosteen, and used the resulting poultice to effectively treat wounds. The pericarp, or outer rind, of this delicious fruit was ground into a tea which treated many disorders, including diarrhea in children. Much research has shown that the pericarp of mangosteen contains the world's richest source of a special set of phytochemicals called xanthones, which have been found to be biologically active in fighting chronic disease. Now a juice containing an abundance of xanthones has been introduced for the first time to the world, and the benefits of drinking the simple juice are nothing short of startling. This CD and interview will hopefully open your mind to what has become a major new approach to chronic disease. Naturally, you should be skeptical of any new type of product, but we welcome the challenge to provide scientific proof of what you will learn today. Dr. Tootla is but one of many extremely prominent physicians worldwide who are lauding the benefits of this medical breakthrough. These are men and women who are the best of the best in their chosen field. Today, we are addressing the seemingly closed minds some professionals still have to using xanthones, as found in mangosteen juice, in their practice, and how they can assure themselves that it is really okay to recommend a food like mangosteen to their patients.
It's wonderful to be here and to have Dr. Tootla in the studio with us today. It's truly an honor.
Dr. Tootla, welcome to the studio.
Thank you for inviting me and allowing me to participate in this breaking news, not only for the public, but especially for the medical profession.
Dr. Tootla, I'd like to start by asking you about some of the false impressions Americans have had about medicine in our country today. Most Americans believe we're one of the healthiest countries in the world, are we?
It is not. It's sad to state that the recent publication by the World Health Organization puts United States as number 74 out of 171 countries. And yet we spend more money in medical care than any other country in the world. And this has to change.
Now, you're talking about being number 74 out of 171 countries. Amazing. You know, Americans are also leery of plant substances. Is there research backing up the xanthones in the mangosteen fruit?
There's tremendous amount of research done in the last 50 years about xanthones occurring in mangosteen fruits. And this can be easily accessed at the website called pubmed.com. And they have shown in the lab and in using it in patients that this has a wide effect on different disease processes.
Doctor, tell us about the correlation between free radicals and inflammation. What are free radicals anyway?
Free radicals are substances that occur wherever we go. The food we eat is contaminated, the water is contaminated, the atmosphere is contaminated. The results from all of this contamination is a production of free radicals. Free radicals are substances that attack our normal cells on a daily basis. They alter the DNA of a normal cell, so when these cells multiply, they produce diseases. And this is becoming a tremendous problem all over the world.
Well, you know, Dr. Tootla, it's obvious that you didn't grow up in this country. You have an accent. Tell us a little bit about your background, what it was like when you grew up. And it was, what, South Africa?
Yes, I grew up in South Africa of an Indian parentage. My grandfather was brought to the country by the British. And we grew up very poor. where I was one of 8 siblings in the family, and we were very poor. And my mother never took us to see a doctor. First, we could not afford it. Secondly, she knew what folk medicine was all about, which she learned from her parents. So whenever any one of us got sick, my mother knew exactly what herbs to use, what kind of substance to get in the trees, and boil it if necessary, make a poultice if necessary. And so we never saw any doctors. And we grew, all 8 kids grew up very healthy.
Well, that's pretty interesting. So somewhere along the line, you went to medical school and you got involved in traditional medicine, and now you're back to botanical medicine.
Well, in the back of my mind, I never forgot my upbringing by my parents. I always felt there must be a different way to treat diseases. Going to medical school, going through residency, we've been conditioned to use prescription medication. We have never been taught that there are other ways to treat diseases. As a result, especially in the Western world, we are missing out a lot. And unless we look at what other people in other countries are doing, especially the Far East countries, where folk medicine has been practiced for hundreds and thousands of years, and there are many diseases that we get in this country, they don't experience the same diseases. So there's something to be said about folk medicine and alternative medicine.
Well, it certainly seems that there's enough countries out there, Dr. Tootla, that don't have our level of allopathic medicine that are doing very, very well on the wellness scale. Is that the reason?
I think so too. I think the tradition plays a tremendous part, and we have, I think, failed in looking at other ways to take care of our patients.
Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think allopathic medicine today is not looking at botanicals, or are they?
I think, we all know for sure that a lot of drugs comes out of botanicals, but these are processed substances by pharmaceutical companies. They add, they subtract. They are not pure botanicals, as we can see that the people in the Far East have been using. And the reason for that is because pharmaceutical companies are very powerful, and they make sure that physicians don't advocate anything other than prescription drugs.
And those prescription medications, doctor, as I understand it, they do maybe 1 or 2 things, and anything more than 2 is off-label.
Yes, drugs are very specific disease control. They only attack certain diseases. They don't have widespread effect. So for every disease, there is a drug, maybe more than one drug, but the side effects are tremendous. Whereas botanicals, like the xanthones found in the mangosteen juice, has widespread effect on different disease processes because it affects at the base level of the cell. It affects the DNA of the cell, and that's why it's so effective.
Do you think it's as powerful? You know, we're so used to, as Americans, getting instant results. Is this a botanical that can be as powerful and work as quickly as a given medicine?
From my experience so far, it's amazing the results I'm getting in my patients. I have over 1,000 patients who are now using this, and the results are amazing. Most of my patients are elderly because people who are older get colon cancer, but they also have other disease processes such as arthritis, diabetes, hypertension, and I'm amazed when the patients come back and tell me how well they're doing with the different diseases they are suffering from.
So it's a wide spectrum.
It is a wide spectrum because it acts at the DNA level.
And there's no double-blind studies, though, on botanicals, are there?
There are no double-blind studies. It's not easy to do a double-blind study on a natural occurring substances, unlike drugs.
So we rely then on anecdotal evidence.
Anecdotal evidence. The anecdotal evidence is so widespread, and so many patients have benefited.
So in other words, doctor, not only do we talk about anecdotal evidence, but actual outcome evidence and outcome studies, I think that's starting to develop. That's what you're working on, are you not?
Exactly. Outcomes are very important.
Now, you know, some people have said, well, this must be some kind of a placebo effect. And I think you made mention once to me that we were talking, I think, about psoriasis or something like that, that you said it couldn't possibly be a placebo effect.
No, placebo effect means that the patient's mind works at whatever he's suffering from. If he has a headache and you give him a placebo and him not knowing what he's getting, then of course the mind plays a trick on him and he can get rid of the headaches. However, with photographic studies of patients with psoriasis, with burns, those are not placebo effects. Those are actual results from the xanthones.
And the xanthones have been used to a great extent for those kinds of things.
Yes.
Now we come to a touchy subject for many medical professionals. I had a doctor once tell me that even if all we said was true, she would never use the product in her practice for fear she'd be either sued or brought up on ethical charges, or it would void her liability insurance. Actually, she was so frightened of losing her license that she'd not recommend it, even if she knew it would save my life, because I asked her that. Naturally, I'll never use this doctor, who is more concerned about her license than about my health. However, the points she raised, I am sure, go through every medical professional's mind at one time or another. So how does a medical professional handle this situation? How can they get their patients on this product without causing a liability problem or problems with ethics, especially if there is some profit to be made by the medical professional?
Well, the concern is very legitimate because we are the most litigious society in the world. And of course, physicians are afraid of being sued. However, we know, and I know, those people who are using the xanthones and the mangosteen juice know there are no side effects. Certainly, if there are side effects to using this juice, then the concern is very legitimate. However, we know the side effects of drugs, and nobody is concerned about being sued using the drugs. So I don't see the logic behind this, that using a natural substance with no side effects, there should be no concern. I haven't claimed, and I don't expect any physicians to claim, that we're going to cure you of diseases. What we are saying is xanthones have been shown in the lab and in patients that it's effective, use it, and if it works well, very good.
Isn't it true, doctor, that actually most prescription medications don't work all the time? It may be closer to 50 or 60%?
It's less than that, 30 to 40% of the time. And if one drug doesn't work, there are other drugs that we can use. It's pretty rare that one drug would always give you good result.
What would you say the percentage of results using the mangosteen is?
So far, to me, I have had lots of patients. I would say 80 to 90% that come back to me and say they are feeling better. Their psoriasis is gone. The migraine headache is gone. And of course, this is all stories. But when we start producing X-ray reports and CAT scan reports and laboratory works to show that the results are substantiated by these studies, then it becomes a legitimate reason to use this natural substance.
Now, you've got a lot of patients that are on this product, and of course, a lot of those patients come to you because they have cancer. How have you found this product to be used in your research and in your cancer practice?
Well, as you said, there is always a concern that we're not going to substitute the xanthones for chemotherapy because of possible litigation. So I always advise a patient, give this xanthones in this juice a try. Yes, you can get your chemotherapy, but also go on this juice. Not only will it boost your immune system, but your chemotherapy will be much better tolerated. And I have many patients where the cancers have either gone or have reduced substantially.
Now, how does it make you feel?
As I said, I'm very amazed by what results I'm getting. And I would strongly urge physicians to look at this seriously and not be afraid of any litigation, because there are no side effects and no harmful effects from using this juice.
Well, I guess then it points to the old statement, do no harm.
That's what we have been always taught. First, do no harm.
Well, doctor, we were always asked this question. Does the FDA regulate this kind of a product? And if not, why not?
FDA does not play a part in regulating any food substances to be used as medication. They only regulate prescription drugs produced by pharmaceutical companies. This is just a juice. It happens to have xanthones in it. And the FDA does not play a part in regulating this substance. If it causes harm or if people die using that, then the FDA will step in. And this has not occurred, and we don't expect this to happen.
Let's take a step back and talk about the cancer situation. I have been told that the xanthones in the laboratory have created something called apoptosis of the cancer cells. Can you explain that, please?
These cancer cells are abnormal cells, and in the lab they have shown that the xanthones, certain xanthones, especially garcinon E, does destroy those cancer cells, and this has been repeatedly shown in the lab.
Now, how about the immune system? We're talking about boosting the immune system. Is there a way that xanthones do that?
There is no doubt that the immune system is enhanced by using the xanthones. I have a number of cases where I have used this juice on patients who have had HIV and have had cancer. And I would boost the immune system using the juice for several weeks before I operate on the patients.
Well, Doctor, I understand that you have fellow physicians back in South Africa that you've been sending some of the mangosteen juice to. What's happening over there?
My recent visit to South Africa, I introduced these xanthones to the South African, and some of them were physicians, and they are very interested to see if these xanthones will work on HIV patients. As you know, the South Africa has the highest incidence of HIV in the world, and they estimate 6,000 new cases a week in South Africa. And in the lab, especially at the University of Singapore, they have shown that certain xanthones will prevent the immature HIV virus to be converted to a mature virus by an enzyme in the body called protease. And if we can do that, we can avoid the symptoms of AIDS.
That's amazing. You know, I had talked to you once before about cardiovascular disease. That is a concern of mine personally, and you said that there is ample evidence that the xanthones will have a positive effect on that too.
It has been well established in the last 5 to 10 years that coronary artery disease is due to inflammation in those blood vessels. And this is about the most potent anti-inflammatory substance known to man. Prior to that, people have been using anti-inflammatory drugs such as aspirins to prevent heart attack, and they have side effects. Aspirin has a side effects. All anti-inflammatory drugs have side effects. The xanthones do not have side effects, yet they are very strong anti-inflammatory.
Well, Doctor, it's been really interesting listening to you speak today. At the very beginning, we announced some of your credentials, and they're really, really profound, Ken and Dr. Tootla. How do you handle presenting this to some of your fellow physicians? You've got a pretty important reputation to uphold here.
Well, I think I always have to be careful that there are a lot of scams going around, and one has to be skeptical. And when one is introduced to something and with all kind of claims, but whenever any substance is introduced that is new, I always look at it and see what kind of science is there behind it. Is there any research being done on it? And when I was first introduced to this juice, I did my own research, and I wanted to find out if this is real or is just another scam. And to my amazement, there are numerous articles written by scientists and physicians substantiating the use of xanthone and its effect on numerous diseases. And I'm one of the guys that would call a maverick doctor. I introduced laparoscopic surgery, and I was told that I was crazy doing such a thing by removing colon cancer without opening the abdomen. But today it's being used all over the world. So I think somebody has to be the first.
It kind of sounds like the product that we're talking about. Somebody has to be the first.
Yeah, that's for sure. You know, we know that there's over 1,000 papers that have been written on xanthones, and I think National Institute of Health, their PubMed.org site, has a tremendous amount of knowledge for doctors and for medical professionals about xanthones and also about mangosteen. So I think that we probably have a lot of research going on now, and I understand that there's a lot more that's going on, especially in the areas for Alzheimer's and diseases like that. Is that true?
That is true. And we have a lot of anecdotal results. Patients with Alzheimer's, with attention deficit in children. In this country at the moment, there are 2.5 million children taking all kinds of substances such as Ritalin for behavior problem. And these have tremendous side effects. And the results we are getting using the xanthones in this kid is amazing.
Well, Doctor, wouldn't you say that one of the purposes of our sit-down today is to ask some fellow physicians to join your team, to be involved and help spread the word of mangosteen and actually document or have some outcome studies? I
think this is very important, that physicians have an open mind to see what we are talking about, to be able to say, is there any alternative to what I'm doing? If a drug doesn't work, is there any other way to treat my patients? Right now in this country, we have 3 universities, medical schools have introduced alternative medicine in the program to train medical students. And we need more universities to do that, because we have lagged behind and we have turned our eyes against what's happening in the Far East.
Well, there you have it, and if you agree with us that the word has to get out about this amazing product, you may wish to join our business in promoting xanthones. The time spent is minimal, the cost to participate is about the cost of a tank of gas for your car, and the financial rewards are legendary, at times exceeding the income of surgeons indeed. Professional training is provided, and you'll be in contact with Dr. Tootla and other health professionals around the world who are working with xanthones. It provides a great professional side income for anyone interested in furthering the cause of wellness. One last word. Physicians all over the world are using this discovery to treat chronic ailments. Research studies are being mounted by prominent pharmaceutical companies as the race is on to create drugs from xanthones. In the meantime, people are suffering and dying from causes which can be greatly affected by these amazing xanthones. On behalf of the hundreds and hundreds of doctors and thousands of other medical professionals using this information to give their patients relief, we urge you to contact the person who gave you the CD and request access to the many studies of xanthones which are in the public domain. You'll certainly find that your patients can safely be helped, and your reputation as a healer will certainly be augmented. Now, on behalf of the hundreds of thousands of people who will hear this message, Dr. Tootla, I'd like to thank you for stepping out and having the courage to bring us such important and timely information.
Thank you for having me.
And Charlie, I just want to thank you for joining us here today, too.
Well, this has been enlightening, and it's been a pleasure.
Please now contact the person who gave you the CD for the location and much more information on xanthone research and on our business proposition for health professionals and others. I'm Ken Booster, and thanks for listening.